I'm David Foster. These are your top stories on Al Jazeera. Thailand's Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra is asking anti-government protesters to end their demonstrations. The appeal was just hours after she survived a no-confidence vote in Parliament. Florence Louis has more from Bangkok.
This is still a very raucous, lively protest. This is not the only place that's being occupied by protesters. They're still at the Finance Ministry, where they've been camped out since Monday night. This, however, is where the top protest leader, Mr. Suthep Thaugsuban, is. Now, there's an arrest warrant out for Mr. Suthep, but police have made no attempt to detain him, even though he's been leading marches on streets. Yesterday, he led protesters to the Department of Special Investigations, which is the top criminal investigative agency of the country, but there was no attempt to detain him. And that perhaps is an indication of just how keen authorities are to avoid any form of confrontation.
14 young women have been sentenced to 11 years in prison for taking part in protests in Egypt. 7 others have been detained in a juvenile facility because they're under the age of 18. Hoda Abdul Hamid has more.
Well, these girls belong to something called the 7 a.m. movement, which is a youth movement that does support the anti-coup alliance. And typically what they did is stand on the streets in Alexandria peacefully just before going to either high school or university. For example, they would be holding balloons with the 4-finger sign that symbolizes the anti-coup alliance. And on the day they were arrested, well, they were standing on the corniche and they were trying to form a human chain in protest.
The former Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi says he will remain in politics despite his expulsion from Parliament. He told supporters it was a day of mourning for democracy after senators voted him out because of his tax fraud conviction. We'll get the very latest on all those stories. Log on to aljazeera.com. aljazeera.com.